I'm staring at the scuffed knot in the witness stand railing when my dad leans into the microphone and says my name. I stole your inheritance, he tells the judge, his voice calm enough to make the gallery murmur. Heat climbs my throat. My late father's brass coin prints a circle in my palm. If this is his idea of a confession, he's still controlling the story, and I'm the one on trial. The microphone pops softly on the word stole. Somebody in the second row shifts. Fabric whispers, a chair creaks. The air in this courtroom is always too dry, scrubbed through old vents until it smells like paper and aftershave, and the faint sweetness of someone's floral perfume. The court reporter's keys tap a quick insect rhythm at her little machine. Each word he says becomes part of the record. My heartbeat tries to match the pace and fails. Let the record reflect, his attorney says, smooth as glass, that Mr. Hale has voluntarily admitted to transferring his mother's assets. Transferring, not stealing. The word slides across the room like oil. Judge Moreno doesn't react. She sits high above us, chin tucked into her hand, dark eyes steady on him. Her robe folds in neat lines over the edge of the bench. Only the tip of one polished shoe shows when she shifts. The brass nameplate in front of her catches the fluorescent light in a thin gold blink. Dad looks small and dangerous at the same time, framed by the witness box. The oath he swore a few minutes ago still hangs in the air. Do you swear to tell the truth? The whole truth. But he leans into the mic like it's a podium at a seminar he prepared for. I moved the funds to protect them, he says. His voice has that soft, regretful wobble he uses at funerals and holiday toasts. The market was unstable. My daughter is young. She didn't have the skills to handle that kind of responsibility. Young, I'm nearly 30. My jaw tightens. The coin digs harder into my palm. My lawyer's hand finds my elbow under the table, a gentle squeeze. Stay still. We practice this. No eye rolls, no scoffs. No sudden movements that could be spun as emotional instability. Behind me, I can feel my mother before I see her. The faint rustle of tissue, the tiny hitch in her breath when Dad says, my daughter, like he's defending a child instead of the person he spent a year gaslighting. I don't turn around. If I see her face, I might forget who's actually under oath. Mr. Hale, the judge says at last. Her voice cuts through his performance like a scalpel. You understand that admitting to taking the money is different from explaining why you took it. He swallows, nods. Yes, Your Honor. The microphone carries the scrape of his throat, the soft exhale. He glances sideways, not at me, but in my direction, like he's checking his audience. That half-smile flickers, the one I know from every time he's gotten away with something and convinced everyone it was an accident. This was for her own good, he says. He lifts his hands, palms up, like they're empty. I invested it for her. I lost some of it in a downturn, yes, but the intent was always to preserve her future. Preserve, like fruit in jars, like a body. The gallery murmurs again, a low roll of sound. Someone coughs. The bailiff shifts near the double doors. His radio crackles once, then goes quiet. I look down at my fist. The brass coin is warm, pressed into my lifeline. My father slipped it into my hand on a different day, in a different building, years ago. Never let anyone talk over you, he said then. The irony is that the best move I have today is silence. Counsel, the judge says, I will not tolerate spin. I need facts. My lawyer rises beside me. The leg of his chair scrapes the floor, controlled. No hurry. Your Honor, with the court's permission, will address intent and timing in cross. Right now, I would appreciate clarity on why this admission is happening only today, after repeated denials. He sits. The wood under my hand is smooth from decades of people gripping it, praying it holds. My thumb strokes the groove without meaning to. Mr. Hale, Judge Moreno says, eyes narrowing just a fraction. You testified in earlier proceedings that no such transfers occurred. You refused to provide full accountings. You opposed discovery at every turn. Why admit to this now? The question hangs there. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seems to thin. The court reporter's fingers hover, ready. Dad looks right at me this time. It's a small turn of the head, just enough to let me see the calculation in his eyes. His mouth curves in that familiar, private smile way that used to mean we were sharing a joke about the rest of the world. I didn't want to damage my daughter's reputation, he says slowly. I was trying to spare her the embarrassment of everyone knowing she'd been passed over. I thought I could fix things quietly, but she insisted on dragging this into court. There it is, the pivot. He confesses and blames me in the same breath. A hot buzz builds behind my eyes. The coin burns. I see the jurors. No, not jurors. This isn't a criminal trial yet. This is probate, bench only. I see the few members of the public sitting along the back row, watching me instead of him. They don't know the difference between dragging it into court and filing a petition to contest a forged will. They just heard the word embarrassed. My tongue feels thick. I taste the metal of fear, old and familiar. I swallow it down. My lawyer leans toward the microphone but checks himself when the judge lifts one finger. She's studying Dad, pen resting on the legal pad in front of her, ink tip poised but not moving. The little desk clock by her elbow ticks, soft and precise. You're saying, she repeats, that you lied under oath in earlier hearings because you didn't want your daughter to feel embarrassed? Her emphasis on the word is surgical. Even Dad seems to hear the danger in it. He shifts in the chair, wood creaking under his weight. I was afraid, he amends, for her, for how she'd react. She's always been sensitive about money. A quick, almost invisible flinch goes through Mom. I see it in the glass reflection of the gallery door. Sensitive, fragile. Words he uses like weapons. The court reporter's machine chatters, swallowing everything whole. Once it's in that roll of paper, it's not just a story anymore. It's evidence. That's the only comfort I have right now. Not his confession. The transcript. Judge Moreno exhales through her nose, a small, controlled sound. She sets the pen down. Mr. Hale, she says, given the seriousness of what you've just admitted, I'm going to need you to start at the beginning. The beginning. The fluorescent light above the witness box flickers once, a tiny high buzz, then steadies. The brass coin in my hand is suddenly very heavy, like it's anchoring me to the wood, to this room, to this exact second. As the judge tells him to start at the beginning, I close my fingers around the coin, and in my head, I do the same. The beginning is not a date on a document. The beginning is a sound. It's a soft monitor beep in an ICU room, marking each heartbeat like a metronome that refuses to look away. I blink, and the courtroom wood grain becomes the pale laminate of the hospital floor. The polished shoes and suits blur into blue scrubs and rubber soles. The dry, recycled air swaps with the chemical clean bite of antiseptic, stale coffee, and the faint medicinal lemon of disinfectant wipes. Grandma lies in the bed that fills most of the room. The ventilator hums and sighs beside her, plastic tubing rising and falling with each assisted breath. Her hair looks whiter against the flattened pillow. There's a yellow hospital sock peeking from under the sheet, one toe bent in a way that makes my chest hurt. I am in a borrowed set of scrubs, the too stiff kind they give to family who stay past visiting hours. My badge says visitor, but I know enough field medicine from working the night desk on another floor to understand every number on her monitor. Heart rate, oxygen saturation, blood pressure hovering in a narrow, stubborn band. Beep, beep, beep. Each one says, still here. I hold her hand, careful not to tug at the IV line taped to the back of it. Her skin is paper thin but warm. The cannula under her nose hisses a steady stream of oxygen. It tickles the inside of one nostril and makes it flutter when she exhales. Lean closer, she whispers. Her voice is small and rough from days of dryness and machines. I have to bend until my hair brushes the bed rail, and my nose fills with the smell of her, talc and lemon lozenges, and the faint, sour edge of illness. I'm right here, I say. She blinks slow, then her eyes sharpen, like someone turns up the dimmer switch behind them. For a second, she is not a patient. She is the woman who fixed every broken appliance in her house with duct tape and curses. Listen. Her fingers tighten around mine with surprising strength. You will not be left begging at anyone's door. You hear me? The words slice through the steady beep-beep. I feel my body go still. Grandma, there is a will, she says. A proper one. In the house. She swallows. The sound clicks in her throat. Blue folder, hall closet. Carver knows. Her breath smells faintly of lemon lozenges and plastic. I can feel each exhale on my cheek. Carver, I repeat. Lawyer, her eyes flick toward the doorway, then back to me. She says my full name, every syllable, the way she did when I was little and had done something brave or foolish. It vibrates in the air like a stamped seal. In that will, you are covered. Her lips barely move. I won't have my girl groveling to any man. You understand? In the opening between the door and the frame, I see a shadow. Dad is half turned away, pretending to scroll his phone. The blue light of the screen washes his face, but his thumb is still. He is listening. The hairs on the back of my neck lift. The monitor keeps beeping like nothing important is happening. I glance up at it anyway, numbers still steady, no alarms, just the soft inflation noise of the ventilator, the slow sigh as it lets her lungs rest. Okay, I say, my voice shakes once, then evens out. I'll find the blue folder, I'll talk to Carver. She tries to nod, but it's more like a flutter under the skin of her neck. Good girl, she mouths. The words are barely sound. There's a knock on the open door, knuckles on metal. Dad steps fully in, cup of coffee in hand. The bitter smell arrives before he does. How are my two favorite ladies, he says, too bright. He sets the cup down on the overbed table with a soft clack that makes the nurse charting at the computer glance over. His phone disappears into his pocket. We're talking, I say. My tone is neutral, the one I learned for dealing with surgeons who think they're gods. He moves closer to me at the side of the bed. His arm brushes my shoulder, a casual family touch for anyone watching. His fingers slide into the breast pocket of my scrub top. When they come out, something small and heavy stays behind. Here, he murmurs. Your dad would want you to be taken care of. I look down. The outline of a circle shows through the thin fabric. I reach in and close my hand around it. The brass coin, my late father's coin. The one Dad kept in his top drawer for years, claiming it was too sentimental to leave lying around. The metal is warm from his palm. The ridged edge bites my skin when I squeeze. He pats my shoulder, then looks at Grandma. Mom, you're scaring this kid with all this will talk, he jokes gently. She's got her whole life ahead of her. Grandma turns her head ever so slightly and fixes him with a look. For a moment, the machines and the tubes and the hospital gown fall away. It's just her and her son and decades of unsaid things. She'll have it, she rasps. Without you. Dad laughs. It's soft, but it spreads in the room like a draft. Mom, come on, let's keep your blood pressure down, yeah? On the monitor, the numbers twitch upward anyway. A nurse steps in, checks the lines, the drip rate, the little roller clamp on the IV. She glances at me, eyebrows a question. We're okay, I say. It's a reflex, the way you answer when staff asks. We're okay. She nods and leaves, shoes squeaking once on the waxed floor. Grandma squeezes my hand again. I look back at her. Her lips move around one more word. Promise. My throat tightens. The coin in my pocket feels like it's been soldered to my skin. I promise, I tell her. I'll be okay. But even as I say it, I feel the lie. Not because I don't intend to fight, because I know that whatever okay is, it depends on papers I haven't seen yet, and men who rarely tell the whole truth. The night nurse comes in with a checklist: name, date of birth, pain scale, medication times. She asks Grandma to squeeze her fingers. The response is weaker this time. She notes it in the chart, pen scratching. Hours blur into vital checks and the soft hiss of oxygen, into coffee from the vending machine that tastes like burnt plastic. Dad comes and goes, talking in low tones at the nurse's station, making calls in the hallway. Every time he passes the door, my hand flies to the coin, warm, heavy, present. When the respiratory therapist adjusts the ventilator, the alarm bleats once, then quiets. I watch the numbers. I know what every drop means. Field medicine knowledge is supposed to prepare you. It doesn't. Sometime close to dawn, whatever that means in a windowless ICU, the doctor comes in with a different face. Softer, prepared. He talks about comfort measures, about letting her go peacefully, about no heroic interventions. Dad signs the paperwork with a smooth, practiced hand. The pen makes a tiny click when the cap goes back on. I hear Grandma's earlier words over the doctor's. Blue folder, Carver, not begging. When they disconnect the ventilator, the room gets very quiet. The machine stops sighing. The oxygen hiss is gone. All that's left is the monitor's slowing beep. I hold her hand until the warmth bleeds away. Her fingers slacken around mine, sliding off like a ring that's finally too big. The nurse reaches over me to silence the alarm when it starts to whine. One firm press of a button. The sound cuts off mid-note. Time of death is recorded. The chart closes with a soft thump. The doctor and nurse step out to give us a moment. Dad cries, or something like it. Mom leans into him, shoulders shaking. I stand there, hands still curled around a coin that now feels like a debt. They talk about arrangements, about funeral homes, about flowers. I hear the words, and none of them stick. Eventually, someone takes her away. The bed looks strangely naked without her in it. Just bent sheets and flattened pillows, and the faint ghost of talc in the air. I walk out of the ICU on legs that don't feel like mine, past the nurse's station where monitors glow green and amber, past the family room with its gray couches and blinking TV. The automatic doors wheeze open. Cold night air slams into me, tasting like exhaust and wet asphalt. The hospital sign buzzes overhead, each letter haloed in sodium orange. In the parking lot, under that humming light, I finally open my hand. The brass coin has left a perfect red circle in my palm. It burns like it's just been forged. The night she dies, I stand in the hospital parking lot with the coin burning in my fist and tell myself I'll find that blue folder before anyone else does. The next time I smell her, it's lilies instead of lemon lozenges. The church basement hums with low condolences and the gurgle of a giant silver coffee urn. Instant coffee, cheap and overbrewed, mixes with floral arrangements that are already going soft at the edges. Somebody spilled sugar. It crunches under my heel when I shift my weight. Dad wraps an arm around my shoulders like he's steadying me. His suit smells like pressed wool and aftershave. The brass coin hangs on a thin chain under my black dress now, warm between my collarbones. The only weight that feels honest. She doesn't have to worry about a thing, he tells Aunt Liz, loud enough for the cousins at the cookie table to hear. I'll handle the estate. The word estate lands like a polished stone. Aunt Liz pats my arm, her fingers cool and papery. You're lucky, she says. Not everyone has a son willing to step up like this. I think of Grandma in that ICU bed, whispering blue folder, Lawyer Carver. You will not be left begging at anyone's door. My throat tightens. I swallow it down with a mouthful of coffee that tastes like hot cardboard. People drift in and out of clusters, their voices bouncing off the low ceiling tiles. Such a loss. She was a force. You know, she always said you were her favorite. Every time someone says that last part, they glance over at Dad without meaning to. Their eyes flick from me to him, reassessing the balance. Who gets what? Who deserves what? He squeezes my shoulder, just a little too tight. She doesn't need to think about paperwork right now, he tells anyone who starts a sentence with "so what happens to the house." I've got it handled. Handled. The coin presses into my sternum when I breathe. I press my palm flat over it, like I can pin my promise in place. The funeral itself blurs. Organ music, thick and slow, the rustle of programs, the wet sound of people blowing their noses into cheap tissues. What stays sharp is the way Dad stands at the lectern and talks about her generosity. How she taught us to work hard. How she believed in family. His voice catches at the right moments. People dab their eyes. I stare at the coffin and feel something cold and hard take shape behind my ribs. A week later, the cold is back, this time in Attorney Carver's conference room. The place smells like paper, toner, and whatever they use to clean the fake wood table. A ticking wall clock eats up the silence between polite phrases. There's a cut glass candy dish full of dusty peppermints no one touches. A stack of manila folders sits in front of Carver. One of them has Grandma's name typed on a white label. Seeing it in that bland font makes my stomach twist. Thank you all for coming, he says, clearing his throat. We're here for the reading of Ms. Henderson's last will and testament. Dad is seated directly across from him, hands folded on the table like a model client. Mom sits beside him, fingertips worrying the edge of a legal pad she doesn't write on. A couple of cousins fill out the chairs along the wall, perfume and aftershave, blending into something sweet and stale. My chair wobbles by a millimeter. Every time I shift, the metal leg clicks against the tile. I plant my feet to stop it. The coin on its chain taps the hollow of my throat when I swallow. Carver opens the folder with a soft whisper of paper. For half a second, hope flares. Blue? I'm looking for blue. The pages he lays down are white. Standard letterhead. Black ink. He begins to read. The familiar legal cadence washes over the room. Being of sound mind and disposing memory. I feel my hidden skill kick in. Years of being the clerk who scans and files other people's wills. I know the structure before he reaches each clause. When he gets to the gifts, my spine straightens. To my beloved son, Michael Hale, Carver reads. I leave my home, all contents therein, and the residue of my estate, in the utmost love and confidence that he will provide for my granddaughter as he sees fit. The residue of my estate, everything. He goes on. Small bequest to a church, to a charity, to a neighbor. Condolence money, not equity. My name appears exactly once. And I ask that my son ensure the continued care and support of my granddaughter, full name, in whatever way he deems appropriate. Appropriate? Provide for. No direct line from her to me, only through him. I go cold all over, like somebody opened a door to winter behind me. The cousins murmur polite congratulations across the table. Of course she trusted you, Mike. You were always the responsible one. Perfume and aftershave curdle in my nose. The ticking clock gets louder. My fingers find the coin under my dress and pinch. The metal is suddenly sharp. I look at Carver. He does not look surprised, but he doesn't look comfortable either. There's a pinch at the corners of his eyes that wasn't there at the funeral. Excuse me, I say. My voice sounds far away, like I'm hearing it through a vent. Is that the only will? Dad chuckles before Carver can answer. It's a warm, indulgent sound designed for audiences. Sweetheart, this is not a movie, he says. There's not some secret document tucked in a Bible somewhere. Blue folder, I think. Hall closet. Carver knows. What about the folder she kept at the house, I ask. I can feel every pair of eyes swing to me. The blue one. She told me. Dad's laugh gets sharper. She was on morphine, he says. You heard her in those last days. She was mixing up decades, names, colors. He looks around at the room, inviting them in on the joke. You know how she got. Heat climbs my neck. My cheeks burn. Under the table, Mom's hand clamps around my wrist. Fingernails digging into my skin. It's a silent command. Drop it. Carver clears his throat again, softer this time. The will I just read is the most recent instrument on file, he says carefully. It was executed several months ago. Several months. That would place it smack in the middle of her chemo, when she fell asleep mid-sentence and forgot she'd already told the same story twice. Mom, I say, turning toward her. She told me about a lawyer named Carver, about a blue folder in the hall closet. My mother's eyes shine with unshed tears. Baby, she whispers. She was so tired. She said a lot of things. This is what she wanted. She trusted your father. My father, not hers. He reaches over and squeezes my shoulder with that same heavy proprietary grip he used in the church basement. We are not going to pick apart your grandmother's dying words, he says, voice firm now. She trusted me with everything. This is hard enough without you making it about money. He says money like contamination, like I just dragged something dirty in on my shoes. The cousins shift uncomfortably. One of them mutters something about grief making people say things. No one looks directly at me. The clock ticks. The fluorescent light above the table hums. The coin on my chain is a brand against my skin. Carver closes the folder, but his fingers linger on the edge of the paper for a heartbeat too long. That tiny hesitation slices through the fog in my head. When we all stand, chairs scraping, Dad moves into position at the door automatically, shaking hands, accepting condolences and congratulations like the star of a very specific show. I'll make sure she's taken care of, he tells Aunt Liz again, as if he hasn't already said it a dozen times. I drift toward the window, where cold, after-rain light washes the parking lot in silver. The glass is cool when I rest my fingertips against it. Outside, cars hiss past on wet pavement, a steady white noise. My reflection floats over the scene, pale, eyes dark, a small circle of gold at my throat. I let the chain slide between my fingers, the coin flipping, catching, flipping again. Every turn is a question. Every catch is an answer I don't like. In the reflection, I see movement behind me. Carver, pausing in the doorway instead of following Dad to the elevator. When I turn, he is watching me instead of him. His mouth a thin, doubtful line. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks something is wrong. He looks away the second our eyes meet. He smooths the edge of the folder, tucks it into his briefcase. And when Dad calls his name from the hallway, he pastes on a neutral smile and goes. The door closes with a soft latch that sounds a lot like a warning I haven't learned how to read yet. Weeks blur into cardboard and signatures. Dad moves into Grandma's house, like he's following a floor plan only he can see. Furniture migrates. Pictures disappear from walls and reappear in bubble wrap. The air smells like dust, fresh paint, and the citrus bite of the cleaning spray he uses to wipe away every fingerprint that isn't his. He stands in the doorway of my old room, one hand on the frame. The hall light halos him. You've got until the end of the month to clear your stuff, he says. He doesn't step inside. He looks past me, at the posters still tacked above the bed, the books on the shelves. After that, anything left goes in the dumpster. My hand flies to the coin at my throat. The chain slides under my fingers, metal warm from my skin. This is still my room, I say, then hear how childish that sounds. It was my room. He snorts. Was is the key word there, he says. You're an adult. Adults don't cling to their childhood bedrooms. He walks away before I can answer, footsteps fading down the hall, leaving the faint smell of his aftershave behind. On the kitchen counter, my student loan bills stack up like insults. White envelopes with red print. Past due, final notice, immediate action required. They sit beside a glossy mailer about his business. New logo, new tagline, same old promises. One evening, when the sun is a smear of orange through the tiny kitchen window, I pick up the top envelope and turn to him. Did Grandma leave anything for that? I ask. For my loans, she knew about them. He doesn't look up from his laptop. The screen glows blue against his glasses, reflecting spreadsheets and whatever lies he's feeding into them. I'm using the inheritance to stabilize things, he says. Our house, my business. That benefits you too, indirectly. Indirectly, like secondhand smoke. But she told me. He snaps the laptop shut. The clap of it makes the spoon in his coffee mug jump, ringing against ceramic. He leans back in his chair and rolls his eyes. Unbelievable, he says, louder now. Do you have any idea how much I already spent raising you? Clothes, food, school. You think that was free? His voice carries through the thin walls, out the open window that faces the shared driveway. I hear a neighbor's screen door creak. Someone pauses outside, the gravel crunching under their shoes. I'm not saying... You're being ungrateful, he cuts in. You're making this ugly. Your grandmother trusted me because she knew you couldn't handle this kind of responsibility. The words hit harder than the volume. Trusted me. Couldn't handle. I feel my face heat. The coin is a hot pebble under my collarbone. I press it with 2 fingers, grounding myself so I don't shout back. In the hallway, Mom appears with a dish towel still in her hands, fingers twisting it. Let's take it down a notch, she says softly. People can hear. He gestures toward the window. Good, he says. Let them hear how I'm breaking my back to keep a roof over our heads while she complains about her precious loans. My throat tightens. I taste metal, old and bitter. I put the envelope down without another word. The first real escalation comes dressed as family dinner. He insists we sit at the dining table, like civilized people. The overhead light hums and flickers every few minutes, turning the room into a stuttering slideshow. The roast chicken is overcooked, skin leathery, meat dry. The smell of it mixes with steamed broccoli and the faint chemical tang of the floor cleaner. We eat mostly in silence. Forks scrape plates. The wall clock ticks. Then he wipes his mouth with his napkin and clears his throat like he's starting a meeting. I spoke with a realtor today, he says. I'm putting the house on the market. My fork stops halfway to my mouth. Grease cools on the tines. Mom's hand trembles where it rests on her water glass. She doesn't look up. You're what? I ask. It comes out flat. My heart is pounding, but my voice is calm. The way it gets when I'm about to give bad news to a stranger at the court clerk's window. I'm selling, he says. The market's good. I can use the proceeds to stabilize the business. Pay down some lines of credit. Clean slate. He sounds proud, like this is entrepreneurial genius. Not a fire sale on my entire childhood. This house was supposed to be... Supposed to be what? He snaps. He leans forward. The chair legs squeak. Yours? She left it to me. I'm the one on the deed. I'm the one on the hook for the taxes and the maintenance and everything else. My fingers close around the coin under my dress. The ridges press hard. She wanted me to be safe, I say. She told me that in the hospital. She talked about a will, about Carver, this house. His palm slams onto the table. The plates jump. Cutlery clatters. Mom's water glass tips and rights itself. A small wave slapping the sides. You don't own a damn thing here, he spits. His face is red now, eyes bright and mean. You've been living under my roof on my dime for how long? You think a few morphine ramblings override a legal document? Morphine. Ramblings. He says it like she was delirious every second. Not like she snapped into focus long enough to say blue folder, Carver knows. You will not be left begging. Silence drops hard. The only sound is the fridge kicking on, a low mechanical hum. Mom's eyes are wet. Can we please just eat, she whispers. Please. I push my plate back. I am not hungry anymore. He jabs his fork into the chicken, sawing at it like the meat offended him personally. Under the table, my knees tremble. The coin feels like the only solid thing in the room. That night, the house is too loud with its own noises. Floorboards pop as the temperature drops. Pipes thud in the walls. The wind finds every gap in the old windows and whistles through. My room is almost empty now. Just a mattress on the floor, a couple of boxes stacked against the wall, the shadow outline where my bookshelf used to be. The smell of fresh paint from the hallway creeps in, covering the last trace of my life here. I sit cross-legged on the bare floor, phone in one hand, laptop balanced on my knees. The brass coin is pressed to my lips, metal cool and steady. It tastes like pennies and promises I shouldn't have believed. On the laptop screen, the state judiciary portal glows. I've used it 100 times at work, helping strangers look up probate files and civil case numbers. Tonight, I'm the one clicking through menus, fingers moving on autopilot. County case type, decedent's last name. My hidden skill isn't dramatic. It's just knowing where things live in a system most people never bother to understand. Wills are public record once they're filed. Property transfers leave trails, instrument numbers, book and page, timestamps. Every handled detail he keeps throwing in my face is backed by paper somewhere. I scroll through dockets, eyes scanning entries. Petition to probate will, order admitting will, inventory and appraisal. Each line is a footprint. The cursor hovers over download icons. I don't click. Not yet. My chest is tight. My palms are damp against the laptop casing. A notification pops up on my phone. New email, subject line, new listing near you. I almost swipe it away, but the preview shows my grandmother's street name. Cold light from the screen washes my hands as I open it. There it is, a cheerful real estate blurb calling our house a charming, well-loved family home with great potential. Photos scroll by, my bedroom emptied, the kitchen where he slammed his hand, the dining room where he told me I owned nothing. Every room is brighter, clearer, stripped of personality and priced for sale. For a second, I can't breathe. The coin digs into my lower lip. I realize I've bitten down on it. When his new real estate listing goes live with photos of the only home I've ever known, I close the browser and decide the next document I open will be Grandma's will from the courthouse, not his version of it. The next day, my lunch break is not a break. The county records office hums like an old refrigerator. Buzzing fluorescent lights, clacking keyboards, overworked printers coughing out pages. The air smells like toner, dust, and the faint sweetness of the vending machine coffee that no one actually likes, but everyone drinks. I swipe my badge at the security door between my wing and theirs. The reader beeps green, the lock clicks. I step into a space I've walked past 100 times, but never used for myself. "Hey, stranger," the records clerk says. Her name is Janine, and she has a mug that says, Queen of Redaction, sitting by her monitor. She looks over the top of her glasses at me. "Did we misfile something for you?" "Not exactly," I say. The coin in my pocket is heavy, its circle warm against the fabric of my slacks. I'm here, as a member of the public. One eyebrow goes up. But she doesn't ask. We all know the rules. Probate files are public, as long as they're not sealed. No one needs to explain why they're curious about a dead relative's paperwork. "Name of decedent?" she asks, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I say Grandma's full name, every syllable. It feels like placing something delicate on a conveyor belt. Janine types. The old computer tower whirs like it's powering up a spaceship. On the screen, a list of case numbers populates with a slow, jittery scroll. "Here we go," she says. "Probate. Will admitted. 4 months ago." 4 months, right when chemo made her too tired to sit up for more than 20 minutes. "Can I get a copy of the will on file?" I ask. My voice is steady, my heart isn't. "Fill this out." She slides a request form across the counter. Name, case number, document requested. I print carefully, the pen dragging a tiny groove in the paper. She takes it back, stamps it with the date. Thunk, a little jump under my fingers, and clicks through more menus. A few seconds later, the printer wakes up, gears turning, then spits out a creased, slightly skewed scan onto the output tray. The smell of hot toner is sharp and nostalgic. Janine staples the pages, aligning the corners with practiced hands. "Here you go," she says. "No charge, employee discount." I huff out a laugh that doesn't quite make it. "Thanks." The paper is warm when I take it. The coin in my pocket presses into my thigh. Anchor, an accusation. I step aside to the narrow counter by the wall. away from the small line that's formed behind me. The fluorescent tube above me flickers once, then steadies. The document looks exactly like the one Carver read. Same language, same love and confidence line about Dad providing for me. My name, once, as a responsibility. But the part that matters isn't the paragraphs, it's the margins. At the top of the first page, there's a black barcode sticker. Under it, tiny numbers. Instrument number, file date, timestamp down to the minute. Filed at 9:32 in the morning. 2 days after she slipped into that morphine fog and didn't come back up. 2 days is fast. Too fast. From execution to filing, with chemo and confusion in the middle, my stomach rolls. I flip to the last page. Her signature sits there, spiky and strangely stiff. The line below it holds the notary's name. I know that name. I've seen it on other documents. Someone who works the mobile notary circuit for hospitals and nursing homes. Convenient. The loops of her capital letters are wrong. My eyes know before my brain does. I tuck the will into a manila envelope and slide it into my bag, the edges catching on the zipper. The coin knocks against the metal teeth with a tiny, bright clink. Back in my own wing, the air is cooler. The hum of the big copy machine is lower, familiar. I drop into my desk chair and pull open the bottom drawer where I keep the things I'm not supposed to keep. Old birthday cards, signed checks that I never cashed because she insisted on writing them even when I swore I didn't need anything. Envelopes with her looping handwriting on the front. I line them up across my desk like evidence exhibits. Exhibit A. The way she always makes the downstroke on the G too long. Exhibit B. The tilt of the S in her last name, leaning forward like it's in a hurry. Exhibit C. The little flourish on the tail of the Y when she writes my name. I place the will signature beside them. It's technically correct. All the letters are there, but the pressure is different. The line weight doesn't fade at the end of strokes. It stops like someone ran out of confidence instead of ink. I'm not a handwriting expert, but I am someone who has opened every envelope she ever addressed to me. My body recognizes the wrongness. My coworker Troy walks by with a stack of files. He pauses, glances at the papers spread on my desk. Busy, he says. He's joking. He doesn't know that my heartbeat is in my ears. Family stuff, I say quickly, shuffling a card half an inch, trying to figure out bills. He winces in sympathy and keeps going. The cart he's pushing squeaks at every revolution of the wheel. I take my phone out and snap a couple of photos. Good lighting, all the signatures in frame. I don't know yet what I'll do with them. I just know I might need proof later that my gut didn't imagine this. That evening, the house smells like takeout and fresh cardboard. More moving boxes have appeared in the living room, labeled in Dad's neat block printing. Kitchen misc, decor, office. I hover in the doorway, manila envelope tucked under my arm, the coin a small hot weight in my pocket. He's at the table with his laptop open, light from the screen turning his face pale blue. A real estate site glows back at him. He's already comparing comps, running numbers. I stopped by the courthouse on my lunch break, I say, as casually as I can. Looked at Grandma's file. His fingers freeze on the keyboard. The laptop fan whirs in the sudden silence. His face goes still for a fraction of a second, every muscle tightening. Then the smile comes. Too fast, too wide. It doesn't touch his eyes. Digging up ghosts now, are we, he says. He chuckles like it's a cute quirk. You know, some people process grief with therapy or yoga. You go straight to paperwork. Very on brand. The coin heats in my palm as I slide my hand into my pocket. Ghosts don't file paperwork, I think. People do. People like him. I just wanted to understand the process, I say. How long things take. What the court looks at. He closes the laptop with a soft click, like sealing something in. Here's what you need to understand, he says, voice low now. The court already looked at it. They admitted the will. It's done. You keep scratching at it, you're just going to make it harder on yourself. Harder, as if anything about this has been easy. Mom rinses containers at the sink, water running too loud. I can't tell if she hears us or if she's pretending not to. I have to get back to work, he adds, reopening the laptop. The fan spins up again. Blue light washes his face. Conversation over. That night, my room feels even smaller. The mattress on the floor, the one lamp with the crooked shade. The laptop balanced on my knees. Outside the thin wall, I can hear the neighbor's TV, a laugh track bleeding through. On the screen, the state probate code scrolls by line after line, sections, subsections, cross-references. I read them the way other people scroll social media. Slow at first, then faster, skimming for hooks. Grounds for contesting a will, undue influence, lack of capacity, improper execution. The coin sits in my palm as I scroll, the metal warming with my skin. Every so often, I have to shake my hand out because my fingers cramp. Past midnight, my eyes burn. The blue light from the screen paints the bare walls in ghost color. The words start to blur. I'm about to shut the laptop when a phrase catches my eye near the bottom of a section. Superseding instruments. My pulse stutters, then picks up. I click the cross-reference, the touchpad smooth under my fingertips. The statute that opens is dry, technical, boring to anyone who hasn't staked their future on a dead woman's paperwork. But the meaning is simple. One valid document can override another. One will can cancel a later one, if certain conditions aren't met. I fall asleep with probate statutes open on my laptop, the blue light washing the room. And somewhere between sections, I find a single line about superseding instruments that makes my pulse jump. By morning, the word has settled into my bones. Superseding, something older, stronger, stepping in front of something that never should have led. Dad leaves early to meet a contractor at the house. There's paint on his cuffs now, the good shirt he wears to look hands-on without ever lifting more than a sample board. He drops the keys on the counter while he digs in the fridge for orange juice. The ring of metal on laminate is sharper than it should be. I thought you gave the realtor a set, I say. I did, he says, back still to me. These are just for staging checks, last walkthroughs. He takes the juice with him when he goes. He forgets the keys. The front door closes. His car engine fades down the street. The coin at my throat is already warm by the time my hand closes around the keys. They jangle softly, house key teeth scraping together. I tuck them into my pocket before Mom can come in and ask what I'm doing. I drive to Grandma's house on instinct. The for sale sign is staked into the front lawn, a bright rectangle in the winter grass. The flyer box is already stocked, smiling realtor face, bullet points about original hardwoods, and cozy charm. The lock resists a second, sticky from fresh paint. The key turns with a gritty click. The hinge gives a small, familiar creak. The smell hits me first. Latex paint, lemon cleaner, and underneath it, the ghost of her, talc and old books and something fried long ago. The place echoes. Cabinet doors yawn open in the kitchen, empty mouths. Countertops are bare, except for a single staging bowl of fake lemons. Even my footsteps sound wrong on the floor, too loud, nothing soft to absorb them. I tell myself I'm here to grab a sweater I forgot. It's thin as excuses go, but it's enough to keep my heart from pounding out of my chest. Her bedroom is stripped almost bare. The bed is gone, just the rectangle of sun-faded carpet where it lived remains. The dresser drawers are empty, knobs unscrewed, ready to be hauled away. Only the closet still looks like hers. The metal track above groans when I slide the door open. Clothes we meant to donate hang in a neater version of their old lives. Dresses, blouses, a winter coat that never fit anyone but her. There's a charity pickup receipt pinned to the door frame with blue painter's tape, ink smudged from a thumbprint. I stand there for a second, breathing in the smell. Fabric softener, dust, talc caught in the fibers. Blue folder, hall closet. She didn't say whose closet. I drop to a crouch, the carpet rough under my knees, and push past the hanging clothes. My hand slides along the wall, fingers catching on a nail, then on something else. Cardboard. There's just a sliver of it visible, wedged behind a stack of dresses, edges worn to fuzz. I pull gently at first. It sticks, then jerks free with a soft scrape that showers dust onto my hands. The folder is scuffed, corners blunted, spine bent from being shoved where it didn't belong. The blue is faded, more gray now, but the color is still there under the grime. My chest feels too tight. Please, I whisper, to no one in particular. I flip it open. Photocopies. The paper is thin, warmed by the years and the house. The smell that rises is pure grandma. Talc, old paper, a trace of her perfume trapped in the fibers. The first page stops my breath. Last will and testament. Her name, different date. Years before Mom remarried. I scan the paragraphs, eyes snagging on words. To my beloved granddaughter. Primary beneficiary. Residue of my estate. Then lines to cousins, to a charity she actually volunteered at. Not a generic foundation. Each bequest is small, but they add up to a woman who thought about everyone, not just one son and his failing business. My hands are shaking so hard the coin on my necklace taps against the cardboard. Tick, tick, tick. The signature at the bottom is hers. I don't have to pull out the birthday cards to know. The G curls right, the S in her last name leans forward. The tail of the Y in my name has that tiny, defiant flick. Witness lines, names I recognize from old Christmas cards. A notary stamp dark and clear. No chemo dates to muddy anything. No morphine notes at the edges of the page. This isn't a rumor in a morphine fog. This is a map she drew while she was still herself. Superseding instruments, I think. One will stepping in front of another. Which one counts when one is written in a hospital haze and the other is witnessed by people who knew better? I tuck the folder against my chest for a second. The cardboard edge bites into my forearm. The coin is trapped between my skin and the pressboard, hot like an ember. I take photos with my phone. Every page. Then I slide the originals back into the folder, close it, and hold on with both hands. On the way out, the emptiness of the house feels different. Less like loss, more like a crime scene that forgot it was one. Dad insists on a family brunch that weekend to celebrate new beginnings. That's what he calls it in the group chat he created just for the occasion. Little champagne bottle emoji, confetti, a link to the restaurant. The place is one of those trendy spots with reclaimed wood tables and exposed ductwork. The ceiling is a grid of silver pipes. Every time the AC kicks on, you hear the rush of air like a low, distant train. Mimosa glasses clink. Cutlery scrapes. The smell of overdone bacon and maple syrup hangs thick between the tables. We're at a long table near the center, big enough to be a stage. Relatives fill the seats. Cousins, in-laws, people who cried at the funeral and congratulated him at the reading. Their chatter is a steady buzz around me. The blue folder sits on my lap, edge digging into my knees. The coin rests against it, trapped between cardboard and fabric. I keep my palm on top to stop my leg from bouncing. Dad is at the head of the table, of course. He raises his glass. To fresh starts, he says. To families staying together. To making the best of what Mom left us. People murmur, "Here, here." They drink. I don't. My heart is thudding. The duct above us rattles as the AC kicks in. I can feel a tiny draft on the back of my neck. When the plates arrive, eggs cooling fast, bacon edges already hardening, I slide the folder up onto the table between us. The cardboard makes a dull sound on the wood, just loud enough to break the nearest conversations. "Can you explain this first?" I ask. My voice is quiet, but the quiet makes it worse. It cuts through the clatter. He looks down at the folder, at the tired blue color, at my hand resting on it. His smile doesn't fall. It just freezes. "What's that?" he says. "Grandma's will," I say. "The older one. The one that leaves the house to me, and specific gifts to everyone else sitting here." There's a ripple along the table. Chairs shift. Someone's fork clatters against a plate. "I found it in her closet," I go on, "in a blue folder, just like she told me." For a second, his face is naked. Shock, then calculation, then something like contempt. Then the performance kicks in. He laughs, big, disbelieving. He leans back so everyone can see him, hand to his chest like he's been mildly offended by a magic trick gone wrong. "Oh, honey," he says. "You really went and made one, didn't you?" "Made one?" I repeat. He reaches for the folder, but I keep my hand on it. His fingers brush mine, warm and firm. His cologne is too strong this close, sharp under the bacon and coffee. "You can't do this," he says. He looks around, voice rising. She's been struggling, okay? Since Mom died. Took some stress leave from work, didn't you?" My cheeks go hot. The room tilts a little. Conversations at neighboring tables are starting to falter. People turn their heads, pretending not to stare. "That has nothing to do with—" "It has everything to do with it," he says loudly. "You think the court is going to take some photocopied fantasy seriously? Drafted by someone who can't even get through a week without having a panic attack. He's rewriting my life in front of family and strangers. Turning a 2-week medical leave I took for grief and insomnia into a diagnosis I never had. "Michael," Mom says, voice small. "Please." He ignores her. "This is what I've been dealing with," he tells the table, spreading his hands, palms up. She can't accept that Mom trusted me, so she's, printing things off the internet? Making fake wills? I hear a cousin suck in a breath. Someone mutters, "That's serious, you know." I open the folder with shaking hands. The photocopies flutter, edges catching the light. "These are dated years before your version," I say. "Signed, witnessed, notarized." Carver's name is on the letterhead. He drafted it. He knows. The restaurant noise swells and thins around us, like the whole place is breathing with my lungs. The coin on my necklace taps against the folder again. A frantic heartbeat in metal. "You need help," Dad says. And now his voice is soft, full of manufactured pity. There's no point in me arguing with delusions. He reaches out fast this time and yanks the folder out from under my hands. Paper scrapes my skin. One corner slices the pad of my thumb. A sharp sting, a tiny bloom of blood. "I'll show this to my lawyer," he announces, raising the folder slightly like an exhibit. "If there's anything legit in here, we'll handle it. And if there isn't..." He lets the implication hang. My ears are ringing. Mimosa glasses glitter in the overhead light like they're laughing. People look away, suddenly devoted to their plates, their phones, the condensation on their water glasses. No one reaches for me. Outside, with my ears still ringing from his accusations, I grip the coin so hard it leaves a welt, and decide the next person who sees those papers will not share a last name with me. The welt is still there the next morning, a faint red circle in the center of my palm. It throbs when I wrap my fingers around my phone and scroll to Carver A. in my contacts. His receptionist answers, bright and professional. I hear the muted clack of keys, the low murmur of someone in the background. When she says he can squeeze me in, between appointments, if you don't mind it being brief, I say, "Brief is fine," even though I know nothing about this is. Attorney Carver's office smells like paper and old coffee. The blinds are half tilted, casting thin stripes of light and shadow across the framed diplomas on his wall. A ceiling vent whispers cool air. It rattles a corner of a yellow sticky note pinned to his bulletin board. He looks older without grandma across the desk from him. There are deeper lines around his mouth, more gray at his temples. When he stands to shake my hand, his grip is dry and careful. "I'm sorry for your loss," he says again, like he did at the reading. "This is not the way she would have wanted you back in my office." I sit. The chair leather creaks under me. The coin in my fist goes from warm to slick as my palm starts to sweat. "I know you're not supposed to talk about everything," I say. "I know there are rules, but I need you to look at something." I unlock my phone and scroll to the photos. Blue folder open on the bed. Close-ups of signatures and dates. The older will. I angle the screen toward him. He leans in. His glasses slide down his nose. He pushes them back up with one knuckle. The shift is small, but I see it. His posture straightens. Something sharpens behind his eyes. "Where did you get these?" he asks. His voice has lost the soft condolence tone. It's just lawyer now. "In her closet," I say. "Hall closet, blue folder. She told me about it in the hospital." He looks at the screen for a long moment. His thumb and forefinger find the knot of his tie and twist once, then release. He taps the phone gently, scrolling from page to page. "I drafted this," he says quietly. "The older one." The coin in my fist goes cold. "And the one you read at the office?" I ask. He exhales through his nose, the sound thin. "That one I also drafted," he says. "At your father's insistence. He came in saying your grandmother wanted to simplify things. She was already on fairly heavy medication by then." "She didn't come with him?" His gaze flicks up to meet mine. "No," he says. "She never came in for a proper review. I asked him to bring her. I suggested we do a capacity check, make notes in the file. He said she was too weak to travel. That time was short, that she'd signed what they discussed at home." He reaches for a file drawer, slides it open. The rails clack softly. He pulls a red rope folder with my grandmother's name written along the spine. Inside, there are copies of both wills. The newer one sits on top like a bad decision covering a better one. He lifts it with 2 fingertips, like it might stain. "She never sat in that chair," he says, nodding at the spot where I'm perched. "Not for this version. I received this in an envelope, signed and notarized. Your mother dropped it off." I noted my concerns in the file. He turns the folder around so I can see. A yellow sticky note, curling slightly at the corner, is stuck to the inside cover. In his handwriting, "Client not present. Son reports instructions. Health status unclear, capacity questionable." My vision tunnels for a second. I make myself breathe. The coin in my hand digs into the heel of my palm, grounding me. "Can you testify to that?" I ask. If it comes to it, I can testify to what I did and did not do, he says. I advised your father to bring her in. I did not witness her signing this. I documented my concern about capacity. That's not nothing. Not nothing. He sits back, steepling his fingers. We're talking about contesting a will, he says, on grounds of undue influence and lack of capacity at execution. Possibly forgery, depending on what a handwriting expert says. The words land like a checklist. Contest, influence, capacity, forgery. What does that look like, I ask? It looks like filing a petition in probate court, he says. Within the statute of limitations, which, fortunately for you, we're still inside. It looks like hiring an examiner to compare signatures, subpoenaing the notary and named witnesses, pulling your grandmother's medical records from the period when this was supposedly signed. He ticks items off on his fingers. Each one feels like a rung on a ladder I'm not sure I'm strong enough to climb. We'll also want to follow the money, he adds. Bank records, property records, transfers in and out of your father's accounts around the time of her death. He studies my face. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, he says. It will be ugly. Your father will paint you as greedy, or unstable, or both. He'll bring up anything he can, old arguments, that stress leave you took from work, any time you cried in public. A muscle jumps in my cheek. I feel myself flinch, just a little, like a dog that's heard the leash jangle. That last part, he says gently, is why people don't usually do this. It's not because the law doesn't give them tools. It's because the fight costs more than the money sometimes. I look down at my hands, at the faint welt from the coin, at the tiny scab where the blue folder sliced my thumb. He already took more than money, I say. He took her word. He took the story she told about me and replaced it with his. If I don't fight that, then he wins twice. Silence stretches. The vent hums overhead. A car horn bleats faintly from the street below, then fades. Carver nods once. All right, he says, if you're sure. I'm not sure in the way he means, but the part of me that still curls up when Dad raises his voice is not the part holding the coin right now. Then we start with what we have, he says. The blue folder will, the filed will, my notes, your recollection of your grandmother's statements. Your employment here gives you access to public records a lot of people don't know how to interpret. Use that. Quietly. At work, I become a ghost in my own building. On my breaks, I slide into the records office like any other clerk, nodding at Janine, pretending I'm grabbing files for a random attorney. The search terminals buzz softly, their screens a dull gray blue. I pull up property indexes, deed transfers, mortgages, liens. Grandma's house shows a clean chain of title, her name, then Dad's, recorded very soon after her death. There's no intermediate step, no trust, just a straight line. Then I look at his business. There it is, a large lump sum payment on a commercial mortgage, out of nowhere, within days of the house sale closing. The satisfaction of mortgage document has a recording number that links back to the same period. The numbers line up like footprints. He thought they were invisible because most people don't know how to read this language. Book and page, instrument date, consideration amount. I print copies. The printer whirs and spits them out, warm, edges curling slightly. I tuck them into a plain folder, label it something boring, MISC Docs, in case anyone sees. Every sheet of paper feels like a little piece of him I've pried loose. Back in Carver's office, the air feels even more like dust and coffee. I lay the copies out on his desk in a neat row. Bank wires, mortgage satisfactions, house sale settlement statement that shows exactly where every dollar went. He whistles under his breath, a sound of quiet appreciation and anger combined. You've done half my discovery for me, he says. This is compelling. He taps one line on the settlement statement. Funds disbursed to Michael Hale Enterprises. He told everyone he was rescuing the business, I say. He was using her house as a life raft. Carver leans back, chair rolling a few inches on the plastic mat. He steeples his fingers again, eyes on the papers, then on me. I know a judge, he says slowly. Someone who cares more about patterns than performances. Who will see the timeline, the capacity issues, the financial trail, and not get distracted by your father's theatrics. Is that allowed? I ask. Picking a judge sounds like cheating, even if it's on my side. We don't get to pick, he says. But in this county, certain matters go to certain benches. I can structure how we file, which motions we attach, in a way that increases the odds it lands where it needs to. He lets that sit for a second. Then he adds, "And because I suspect your father has already burned through most of what he took, I'll take this on contingency. I get paid if you do." The relief is so sudden it makes me a little dizzy. I didn't realize how much of my body was clenched around the question of how I would afford this. I breathe in, dusty files, old coffee, the faint tang of toner from the copier down the hall. "Yes," I say, before fear can answer for me. When Carver says he knows a judge who cares more about patterns than performances, and offers to take my case on contingency, I breathe in the smell of dusty files and say yes before fear can answer for me. The case becomes real the day Dad gets served. I'm not there to see it, but I can picture it. Process server at his office, neutral voice, envelope outstretched. The soft slap of paper into his hand. The moment he realizes I didn't just complain at brunch, I turned his story into a docket number. He shows up at my apartment that night. The knock starts normal, 3 quick raps, then it gets louder, fist against wood, rattling the deadbolt. "Open the door," he yells. His voice leaks in at the edges, thin through the crappy door frame. "Open this damn door right now." I stand in the hallway with my hand on the knob, heart pounding so hard I can feel it in my teeth. The coin in my pocket is a hot, round weight. My phone is already in my other hand, thumb hovering over 9 and 1, ready to add the third one if I have to. He pounds again. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor's door chain slides. I hear a whisper, a hiss. "What's going on?" "I know you're in there," he calls. "You think hiding behind a door is going to save you when the judge hears what you're really like?" I back away from the door until my shoulder hits the opposite wall. The paint is cold through my t-shirt. I can see his shadow under the gap, pacing, stopping. "Fine," he says. His tone drops, more dangerous now. "I'll leave you a message, then I'll make sure the court hears it too." A minute later, my phone vibrates. Voicemail icon. I wait until his footsteps retreat, until the elevator dings and swallows him. Only then do I hit play. Here's the thing, his recorded voice says, quieter but somehow worse. "If you drag this into court, I'm going to have to be honest about your little breakdown last winter. You really want a judge to know about you not getting out of bed? About calling me at 3 in the morning because you couldn't breathe? About that leave from work you cried through?" I grip the phone so hard my knuckles ache. He takes the months when grief turned into insomnia and panic attacks and shapes them into a weapon. "Think about it," he finishes. The voicemail ends with the faint click of him hanging up. I save it. I don't delete anything anymore. He's not done. 2 days later, my boss calls me into her office. Her assistant's face is pinched when she pokes her head into my cubicle. "HR wants to chat," she says, like it's a dentist appointment. The HR conference room smells like burnt coffee, cheap carpet cleaner, and something floral from a plug-in on the wall. The blinds are half closed. Slats of light stripe the table. On the far side, a little white noise machine hums, as if confidentiality can be manufactured. My manager sits with her hands folded, mouth tight. The HR rep, a woman with a soft voice and perfectly smooth hair, glances at a printed script. "We've received a call from a family member expressing concerns about your mental wellness," she says. "Specifically, whether it might be impacting your performance." My stomach drops, but my training kicks in. Policy, procedure, checklists. "I'd like that concern documented," I say. My voice is steady. "My father is currently an opposing party in a probate dispute. Any statements he makes about my mental health need to be noted as potentially retaliatory." The HR rep blinks. Her pen, poised over the pad, hesitates. "That's important context," she says slowly. I slide my folded hands onto the table so they can't see them shake. The coin in my pocket presses into my thigh, a small, insistent circle. "My performance reviews are in my file," I add. "Exceeds expectations 2 years in a row. No accommodations requested, no complaints filed. I took a short, approved medical leave after my grandmother died. I've met every deadline since coming back. I'd like that in the record, too. This is what I have. Facts and pattern. If he's going to drag my worst nights into the courtroom, I will drag his tactics into every room he touches." The HR rep nods, writing. My manager exhales, some of the tightness leaving her shoulders. "We're not here to punish you," she says. "We just have to follow up when someone calls. It's liability. Liability, that's all I am to some people. A risk to be managed. But I leave that meeting with something I didn't expect. An email summarizing our conversation. His call, my performance record. My note that he's an adverse party. Another piece of the puzzle for the judge who cares about patterns. Pre-trial is our first real test. The courtroom is smaller than the one in my nightmares. No jury box yet, just rows of wooden benches. The same seal above the judge's head, the same hum of old light fixtures. The air tastes like paper, dust, and someone's too strong cologne. Dad arrives in a tailored suit I've only seen at weddings and funerals. His hand rests on Mom's back as they walk in, guiding her like he's the one who needs to protect her from what's about to happen. Her eyes slide over me and away, landing somewhere near my lawyer's briefcase. He looks like a worried patriarch. That's the costume today. Carver leans toward me. Remember, he murmurs, this is just about scheduling and preliminary issues. It's not the full show. The coin in my palm is slick with sweat. I close my fingers around it until the ridges bite. When our case is called, Dad takes the stand first. He adjusts the microphone with care, like he's done it before. His wedding ring glints under the fluorescent lights. Mr. Hale, Judge Moreno says, you've heard your daughter's allegations. I'd like you to explain, in your own words, how you came to manage your mother's estate. He sighs, a long, weary sound, looks down, then up, like this pains him. My mother was always impulsive with money, he says. She changed her will a few times. Ultimately, she decided it was best to leave everything to me so I could protect the assets and make sure my daughter was provided for. She's always been fragile, Your Honor, not good with stress. Fragile, the word lands like a slap. And the discrepancies in the documents, Carver asks later during cross. Different dates, different signatures? Innocent mistakes, Dad says smoothly. Mom was sick, the notary was overworked. People misremember, but I never intended to hurt my daughter. I was just trying to keep things from falling apart. Watching him perform under oath makes my stomach twist. Every time he lies, he does it with enough truth around the edges to make it believable. He did worry about things falling apart. He just forgot to mention that he was the one shaking the walls. Then it's our turn. The handwriting expert is a woman with square glasses and a calm, precise way of speaking. She lays out enlarged copies of signatures on an easel, birthday checks, the older will, the contested will. The paper makes a soft slap each time she adds another sheet. In my opinion, to a reasonable degree of professional certainty, she says, tapping the contested signature with a capped pen. This appears to be a tracing of an earlier, authentic signature, not an original. She points out tremors where there never were any, overruns where the pen went too far, lines that should be confident and aren't. The notary is next. She looks nervous, fingers twisting the strap of her purse as she testifies. According to her logbook, brought in, edges worn, pages crinkled, she notarized a will for my grandmother on a specific date at my mother's house. But the hospital records, which Carver moves into evidence with a stack of stamped pages, show Grandma admitted, confused, and on heavy pain meds that same day. Is it possible you notarized without her being fully aware? Carver asks. She swallows. I was told she understood, she says. Her eyes flick to Dad. He said she was tired. I didn't ask many questions. Bank statements come in last, projected on a screen at the side of the room. Red circles highlight transfers. Large sums moving from Grandma's accounts to Dad's business within 48 hours of her death. The judge's expression shifts as the morning goes on. At first, politely neutral, brows smooth, then a slight furrow, a longer pause before each note she writes. By the time the last exhibit code is read into the record, her gaze is cool and steady, landing on Dad like she's measuring him against the stack of paper between us. The air feels different. Less like a stage, more like a lab where evidence is being weighed. When the judge announces she'll need to review additional materials submitted under seal before the full hearing, my lawyer gives me a tiny nod, and for the first time, I feel the coin in my hand go warm instead of hot. By the morning of the full hearing, it's warm again. Too warm. The courthouse corridor buzzes with low voices and the squeak of leather shoes on polished tile. Bailiffs move like slow traffic cops, steering people into the right rooms. Someone's cologne hangs thick in the air, spicy and cloying, battling with the cleaner they use on the benches. Near the back of the line for our courtroom, a couple of reporters hover with notepads and phones, talking in hushed tones about elder fraud and family drama. They're not supposed to record inside, but nothing stops them from taking notes on how we look going in. I smooth my skirt with damp palms. The fabric catches slightly under my fingers. The coin is a familiar weight under the waistband, pressed flat against my skin. Carver stands beside me with his trial binder balanced on one hand. Tabs bristle from the top like color-coded teeth. Witnesses, exhibits, statutes. He smells faintly of coffee and old books. You remember what we talked about, he murmurs. Speak only if asked. Keep your face neutral. The record cares about facts, not flinches. I nod. My throat feels tight, like I've swallowed cotton. Dad arrives like he's walking onto a stage. Tailored suit, tie knotted just right, hand resting lightly on Mom's back. Her eyes are red-rimmed but dry. She's gone past tears into some other place. He leans down and says something to her that makes her nod, small and automatic. One of the reporters lifts a phone. Mr. Hale, any comment on your daughter's accusations? He gives them a sad half-smile. My only comment is that I love my daughter, he says. I'm here to tell the truth and protect my family. Protect. The word tastes like rust in my mouth. The bailiff opens the courtroom door. Next case, he calls, voice echoing off wood and plaster. Estate of Henderson, contested will hearing. Inside, the room is cooler. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead. The seal above the judge's bench watches all of us with blank authority. We take our seats, me at counsel table with Carver, Dad and his attorney at theirs. When I look at the witness stand, my eyes find the scuffed knot in the railing wood. I fix on it like it's the center of gravity. The coin burns. The clerk calls the case. The judge comes in. We stand, sit. The choreography drilled into everyone who's ever worked in this building. Counsel, Judge Moreno says. We are here on a contested probate of the will of Miss Henderson. I have reviewed the submissions you filed under seal. Today is your opportunity to make your record. Her gaze flicks over us, pausing a fraction of a second longer on me than on anyone else. Not unkind, just measuring. Dad goes first. His lawyer calls him, and he walks to the stand with that careful, modest stride. Right hand raised, oath spoken. The words, truth, whole truth, nothing but, float in the air a second before settling. He adjusts the microphone. His ring clicks softly against the metal stem. Mr. Hale, his attorney begins, can you explain to the court how you came to manage your mother's assets? He exhales, looking down at his hands, then up, like this pains him more than anyone. My mother was never sophisticated with money, he says. She trusted people she shouldn't. She gave too much away. When she got sick, she asked me to step in. I moved some funds into accounts I controlled to secure higher returns, to keep them safe. His voice breaks, just enough. He clears his throat. I always meant to set up a trust for my daughter, he adds, glancing briefly in my direction. But then the market shifted, and my business had emergencies, and everything happened so fast after she died. I made mistakes, Your Honor. But they were mistakes of love, not greed. Mistakes of love. Mom's hands twist in her lap. I see the tissue crumble between her fingers. And your daughter's allegation that you acted against Ms. Henderson's wishes? His lawyer prompts gently. I did what I thought my mother would want, he says. She wouldn't have wanted her granddaughter burdened with complex financial decisions she's not equipped for. She's always been sensitive, fragile. I stepped in to protect them both. Fragile, the word lands again, a rehearsed bruise. He talks about late nights worrying over bills, about the stress of running a business, about watching his mother fade. Every truth is wrapped around a lie like barbed wire around a fence post. When his attorney sits, Carver stands. His chair legs scrape softly on the floor. Mr. Hale, he says, walking toward the lectern, you testified at previous hearings that you did not move any funds without your mother's explicit consent. Is that correct? Dad straightens in the chair. At the time, I didn't recall the details clearly, he says. Grief does that. So is it correct? A pause. Yes, he says. I said that. And today you say you moved funds to accounts you controlled, Carver continues. To secure higher returns. Which version should the court believe? A muscle jumps in Dad's jaw. I'm clarifying, he says. I'm not a lawyer. I might have misspoken before. Carver picks up a document from our table, the paper making a crisp sound in the quiet room. Let's clarify further, he says. Henderson Exhibit 12. A bank statement showing a transfer of $150,000 from Ms. Henderson's account to yours, 2 days before the date on this contested will. Did your mother instruct you to make that transfer? Dad's gaze flicks to his attorney, then to the judge. Yes, he says. She told me to protect the money. Where is that instruction documented? It was verbal. Carver lets the silence hang for a beat. Even the fluorescent buzz seems to dim. We've heard from a handwriting expert, he says, who testified that Ms. Henderson's signature on the contested will appears to be a tracing. We've seen the notary's log placing the signing at your home, while hospital records place Ms. Henderson in a medicated state in the ICU. We have bank records showing large transfers into your business accounts within 48 hours of her death. Given all that, Mr. Hale, are you still telling this court that you did nothing wrong? The question sits between them, between all of us. Dad's face tightens. The performance wavers at the edges. I told you, he says slowly. I was trying to keep things from falling apart. That's not what I asked, Carver says. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Did you or did you not take control of funds your mother intended for your daughter? Dad's fingers grip the arms of the witness chair. The tendons stand out in his hands. A faint flush creeps up his neck. I moved the money, he snaps. That doesn't mean I stole anything. Earlier, you testified that your daughter is not equipped to handle complex finances, Carver says. Is that why you didn't tell her you were moving the funds? Why you didn't inform her of the older will that named her as primary beneficiary? I didn't tell her because she would have panicked, he says. She always panics. Isn't it true, Carver presses, stepping closer, that what you were really worried about was losing access to those funds for your own business? My heart pounds so hard I feel it in my ears. The coin in my fist goes suddenly cold, as if all the heat in my body has dropped into my stomach. Dad leans forward, eyes flashing. You have no idea what I've sacrificed for this family, he says. None. Did you sacrifice your mother's wishes? His lawyer half rises. Objection, argumentative. Overruled, Judge Moreno says softly. Answer the question, Mr. Hale. The room is very still. I can hear the faint clack of the court reporter's keys as she takes down every word. Dad's composure cracks. You can see the split when it happens. His mouth twists. His voice comes out louder, thinner. Fine, he erupts. Fine, are you happy? I stole her inheritance, but it was mine to manage. She would have wasted it. The words hit the recycled air like a slap. There's an audible ripple in the gallery. A few people gasp. One of the reporter's pens scratches furiously across a pad. Mom's hand flies to her mouth. The tissue crumples, forgotten. Carver goes very still. The judge's eyebrows lift a fraction. The court reporter's fingers blur over the machine. My heart is trying to punch its way out of my chest. The coin in my fist is suddenly ice cold, edges cutting into my skin. This is the confession I thought I wanted. The clean, sharp admission I stole your inheritance. But sitting here in a room full of strangers and family and professionals who will all walk out with their own versions of this moment, it feels like something else. It feels like he stood up and declared publicly that I am not worthy of what she wanted for me. That my grandmother's love was negotiable. That my future was his to gamble because he decided I would waste what she left. Heat crawls up my neck. I stare at my hand, at the white marks the coin is carving into my palm. If I look at his face, I will see triumph there, twisted into rage. He thinks he's still the one telling the story. Carver inhales like he's about to speak, about to drive the nail in. Before he can press further, the judge raises a hand. Enough, she says. Her voice cuts clean through the murmur starting to build. Silence in the courtroom. The gallery noises die down. Even the reporters go still. Judge Moreno looks from Dad to Carver to me. Her gaze is steady, unreadable, but there's something new in it, something like decision. There is one more document, she says. One I have reviewed in chambers and which counsel have not yet seen. That this court must now put on the record. My breath catches. The coin in my fist pauses between hot and cold, balanced on the edge of something I can't name. Judge Moreno adjusts her glasses, then turns slightly toward the clerk. Ms. Lopez, she says, would you please bring in the sealed envelope from Chambers? Her voice is calm, but it lands in my bones like an order I've been waiting for my whole life. The clerk rises from her little desk below the bench. Her chair rolls back with a soft squeak. The door to the side hallway opens with a small pneumatic hiss, then thumps shut behind her. For a moment, the room is nothing but sound. The faint whir of the ceiling vent, the click-clack of the court reporter's keys slowing, then stopping, someone's shoe tapping once, then freezing. When the clerk returns, she carries a large manila envelope in both hands like it's fragile or dangerous. There's a red sealed stamp across the front, already sliced open at the top. The crackle of the paper is the loudest sound in the room as she passes it up to the bench. Let the record reflect, Judge Moreno says, that the court is now opening an instrument previously filed under seal in the estate of Henderson matter. Her fingers slide a stack of papers from the envelope. She smooths them on the bench with her palm. The overhead lights catch the faint blue of letterhead. In the weeks before her death, she begins, Ms. Henderson's counsel submitted a separate will directly to this court, accompanied by a request that it be held in reserve and opened only if the validity of any subsequent testamentary document were challenged. I feel rather than see Carver straighten beside me, his pen stills in his hand. Grandma, quietly setting up a tripwire I didn't know existed. This backup will, the judge says, glancing down to read, was executed several years prior to the contested document and is accompanied by a contemporaneous letter from Ms. Henderson explaining her reasons. A murmur rolls through the gallery. The bailiff lifts his chin, eyes scanning the benches. Quiet, he says softly. I stare at the papers in the judge's hands. They're too far away for me to read, but my ears ring like I'm underwater. The coin in my palm is suddenly very still. On its face, Judge Moreno goes on, this instrument mirrors the earlier blue folder will we've heard testimony about. It names Ms. Henderson's granddaughter, Ms. Hale, as primary heir to the residence and residue of the estate, and makes smaller specific bequests to other family members and charities. My name in her mouth hits harder than Dad's confession, Ms. Hale, primary heir, but there are additional provisions, she adds, and something like steel threads through her tone. Paragraph 9 expressly prohibits any transfer of estate assets to Michael Hale Enterprises or any entity controlled by Mr. Hale. Paragraph 10 references Ms. Hale's student loan debt and provides that sufficient funds be set aside for its satisfaction. Paragraph 11 mentions Ms. Hale's employment in this very courthouse and states, and I quote, that my granddaughter has more sense with a dollar than my son ever did. A strangled sound escapes me, half laugh, half sob. I clamp my teeth shut on it. Late night talks at her kitchen table. Coffee that tasted burned and perfect. Her hand over mine as she told me I was not a charity case. I was an investment. No forger could have invented those details. Those sentences are hers. Beside me, Carver shifts. I see his jaw work once, like he's swallowing something. At the other table, Dad bolts upright. This is impossible, he bursts out. His lawyer hisses his name, but he barrels over it. She was confused. She didn't know what she was saying half the time. He jabs a finger toward Carver. He must have made this up after the fact. Betrayed my mother's trust. Sit down, his lawyer whispers fiercely, tugging at his sleeve. Mr. Hale, the judge says. Her voice is still calm, but it has that quality of a standing wave. Too still to be safe. You will remain seated unless instructed otherwise. He doesn't. He pushes to his feet completely now, hand braced on the edge of the witness box. His chair skids back with a harsh scrape. This is a setup, he yells. She was on pills. She was out of her mind. She would never cut me out like that. The gavel cracks down once. The sound ricochets off the paneled walls. Mr. Hale, the judge doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Sit down. He collapses back into the chair with a thump, chest heaving. His cologne reaches me from here, sharp, expensive, out of place. For the record, she says, turning slightly toward the microphone, the court has before it the following. Expert testimony indicating that the signature on the later will is likely traced. A notarization log that conflicts with hospital records showing Ms. Henderson heavily medicated. Financial records documenting large transfers into Mr. Hale's business accounts within 48 hours of Ms. Henderson's death. A voicemail and workplace report evidencing retaliatory threats toward Ms. Hale, and Mr. Hale's own admission, under oath, that he stole his daughter's inheritance. Each item is a weight, dropping. The air feels thick with them. Now, she continues, lifting the newly revealed will, we also have a prior, authenticated, notarized instrument, filed directly with the court by counsel, that clearly expresses Ms. Henderson's intent to provide for her granddaughter and bar the very conduct Mr. Hale engaged in. She looks at him, really looks at him. Mr. Hale, she says, the pattern here is not ambiguous. His mouth opens and closes. Whatever argument he was about to make dies under the weight of her gaze. Then she does something I didn't fully believe could happen. This matter began as a contested probate, she says. As of today, in light of the evidence and testimony, I am referring the file, including transcripts and exhibits, to the District Attorney's Office for Criminal Review on potential charges of fraud, forgery, financial elder abuse, and perjury. A heartbeat of silence. Then the gallery erupts in whispers. Dad surges to his feet again. "You can't do that," he shouts. "You can't. This is a family dispute. It's a misunderstanding. I was trying to help her." "Bailiff," the judge says. The bailiff moves with a speed I haven't seen from him before. 1 second he's by the door, the next he's at the witness stand, hand hovering near the holster at his belt, the other raised in a calming gesture. "Hands where I can see them, sir," he says evenly. Dad throws his arms wide, like he's the victim of a magic trick gone wrong. "This is insane," he sputters. "She was confused. She told me to." The gavel slams down again. "Mr. Hale," Judge Moreno says, each word clipped, "you are ordered remanded into custody, pending further proceedings. The court finds probable cause that you have engaged in conduct amounting to fraud upon the court and misappropriation of estate assets." For a beat, he just stands there, shocked. Then the bailiff takes his wrists. The metallic click of the handcuffs is louder than his protests. It slices through his words like a guillotine, cold steel around warm flesh. I watch his shoulders jerk as the cuffs bite. His cologne, sharp citrus over something woody, mixes with the flat institutional smell of dust and old carpet. "Mom," he gasps, twisting toward the gallery as the bailiff turns him. "Say something, tell them." Mom has both hands pressed over her mouth now. Her shoulders shake. I can't tell if she's crying or trying not to be sick. She doesn't stand. She doesn't speak. He is led past our table, steps shortened by the chain. For the first time since this started, he doesn't look at me. His gaze skims over my shoulder, over the seal, over the exit sign, anywhere but my face. The door to the side hall opens with another soft pneumatic hiss. The cuffs jangle once as he disappears through it. The latch clicks shut. The sound leaves a hollow quiet behind it. The judge takes a breath. When she speaks again, her tone shifts. Not softer exactly, but less edged. Turning back to the probate matter, she says, "The court finds the contested will invalid due to undue influence and lack of capacity, and recognizes the earlier court-filed instrument as controlling." Her eyes settle on me. Up until now, I've been a line in a caption, a name in a caption. Now I'm the person she is talking to. "Ms. Hale," she says, "the court recognizes you as the rightful heir under Ms. Henderson's valid will." The words land in the center of my chest. The coin in my palm finally feels like it belongs here, in this room, as much as I do. After that, my life turns into a different kind of case file. Orders are drafted. Judgment is entered. The clerk stamps each page with a heavy, satisfying thunk, the red seal bleeding through slightly on the back. Carver leans over the table, flipping to the signature lines, his pen clicking once before he hands it to me. "Here," he says, "sign as heir." The word still feels dangerous in my mouth, but my hand is steady when I take the pen. The coin rests against my skin, warm, as I write my name on the line that used to have his shadow hanging over it. Weeks blur into a different kind of paperwork. Title transfer forms at the recorder's office. Account closure documents at banks where the tellers look at my ID. Then at their screens. Then at me again. "Are you Ms. Henderson's granddaughter?" they ask. "Yes," I say. I slide the certified copy of the will across the counter. Ray's seal catching the light. "Here's the order. The court recognized me." They make copies. They stamp. They change names on screens. Every click of a keyboard is a small recalibration of reality. The new house keys feel strange in my hand. Same metal teeth, same little brass tag from the hardware store, but heavier now. Not borrowed, not conditional. The first time I walk through Grandma's front door as the owner, I pause on the threshold. Lemon polish lingers on the banister. Old wood breathes in the cool air from outside. The floor creaks in that familiar way under my shoe, like the house is clearing its throat. Something inside my chest unclenches, I didn't know was tight. In the kitchen, the cabinets are bare, but still hers. A faint coffee stain circles the spot on the counter where her machine used to sit. I stand in that ring and press the coin flat to the table. "We did it," I tell her, under my breath. My voice sounds too loud in the empty room. Mom calls from a smaller rental on the other side of town. I picture her on a sagging couch, blinds half closed, the hum of a smaller refrigerator behind her. "How's the house?" she asks, trying to sound casual. "Have you unpacked yet?" "Not really," I say. "I'm just getting things in order." There's a pause, filled with the soft static of cell reception. Your father's trial is coming up, she says at last. He asked if you'd visit, just once, before. I told him I'd ask. The coin is on the table between my hands. I spin it slowly, the ridged edge whispering against the wood. Why, I ask. It's not an accusation, just a question I need an answer to. He says he wants to explain, she whispers. He says he wants to apologize. He's still your father. My chest tightens, then loosens. He is my father, yes. He is also the man who stood in a courtroom and said I'd waste what she gave me, who turned my worst nights into ammunition. I look at the coin, at the tiny dents time has put into it. It has been through pockets and drawers and hospital rooms and courtrooms. It has survived all of us. I'm not going, I say. My voice is steady. I don't owe him that. Not after everything he already took. On the other end, Mom's breath catches. I hear a sniff, a tissue rustling. I thought you might say that, she murmurs. It's just hard. I know, I say. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing it so he stops hurting me. She doesn't answer right away. When she does, her voice is small. Okay, she says. I'll tell him. When the call ends, the house is silent again. I trace a circle around the coin with one fingertip. Choosing not to go feels like its own kind of inheritance. One she didn't have when she stayed and stayed and stayed. The money doesn't come in a single cinematic check. It comes as balances shifting, accounts closing and opening, numbers changing on screens. I pay off my student loans first. Sitting at my laptop in Grandma's old kitchen, I watch the total roll down to zero. The confirmation page pops up with a bland congratulations. It feels too small for what it is. The coin taps a soft rhythm against the side of my mug. I count each tap as a year I won back from owing strangers. I set up a scholarship in her name at the nursing program where I once cleaned bedpans and fed patients. It takes phone calls, emails, meetings in offices with pastel art on the walls. We talk about endowment thresholds and selection criteria. I insist the application ask one question. Tell me about the person who taught you what care really means. When I sign the agreement, the advisor slides the papers across the desk, pen balanced on top. Outside, a radio in the hallway crackles with campus announcements. The coin nudges the page as I lower my hand, leaving a faint impression in the paper. This will help a lot of students, the advisor says. You know that, right? I know, I say. That's the point. The rest of the money I handle with more caution than fear. I meet with financial advisors who talk to me, not around me. I ask rude questions about fees, about risk, about what happens if the world tilts again. The conference room smells like carpet and coffee. Charts glow on a wall screen. I keep the coin in my hand under the table, tapping a quiet beat against my notebook as I sign. This time, no one is signing for me. When Dad's sentencing hearing finally comes, the courthouse feels both familiar and foreign. Different courtroom, same buzz. Reporters hover near the steps, shuffling their feet on the stone, breath puffing in the cold air. He shuffles in wearing jail khakis and a county-issued sweater. The handcuffs are off for the hearing, but the absence is almost louder than their presence. There are grooves around his wrist where the metal rubbed. He looks smaller, like someone deflated the performance and left the man. The judge recites the counts, the recommendations, the sentence. Years, fines, restitution ordered. His attorney argues for leniency. The prosecutor counters. The gavel comes down. Outside, flashbulbs pop. The air tastes like exhaust and cold. Microphones rise toward my face, little black foam heads under bright logos. Ms. Hale, how does it feel to win? Do you think the sentence is fair? Are you satisfied? The coin is warm between my fingers, hidden in my fist. I could talk about money, about the house, about revenge. Instead, I say one thing. Money didn't buy me justice, I tell the cameras. Truth did, and a system that listened when I brought the truth in. Their pens scratch, their cameras blink red. Then they turn away to chase the next story. I go home. Home, the word fits better now. Evening light pools on the hardwood in the entryway, soft and gold. Dust motes drift in it like slow snow. The house smells like lemon polish and whatever I cooked last night, layered over decades of her dinners. I stand in the doorway of the house Grandma meant me to have, the evening light pooling on the hardwood, and tell her out loud that I kept my promise, not just to fight for the inheritance, but to decide who I become once I have it.